Clarinet Ninja. Today we're talking about the chromatic scale. I've got this video broken up into 3 parts. 1, for people who are just getting going or don't have a lot of security with a chromatic scale. Number 2, for people who are looking for a way to solidify their chromatic scale. There is a PDF that goes along with this video. You can find it on my website. I'll link it down in the description. You can go ahead and download it now if you'd like, and have it as we go through this video. Download it later so you have exercises to practice. I've written down a lot of stuff, and it's yours. First of all, what the heck is a chromatic scale? A chromatic scale, and if you know all this, skip to part 2 or part 3, indexed. What is a chromatic scale? A chromatic scale is a scale that is every note, every half step moving up. It's a scale that is entirely half steps. On a piano, you can visualize this because it's white note, black note, white note, black note, white. Every note right next to each other on the way up and on the way down. The clarinet does not offer us that visualization. Shame on you. But I'm going to give you everything that you need to know because there are keys that were put on this instrument specifically to play the chromatic scale. We use them for other things too, but the chromatic scale is the reason that they were put there in the first place. Let me show you what they are. I'm not going to show you every flat and every sharp, just the ones and the keys and the fingerings that are specific to playing a chromatic scale. First one, we've got low B flat, also A sharp. To go to the half step higher would be like that, to B. But it doesn't take long to figure out that that is hard. Our fingers are moving in opposite directions. We want to prevent our fingers from moving in opposite directions. How do we do it? We go from A sharp to B. We use this sliver key here and we use it with our ring finger. A sharp to B. And then when we want to go to C, pick them both up. Don't pick them up that far. I'm just making a big deal about it to show you. Right, so we go A sharp, B, C. Perfect. Our next chromatic fingering, our next opportunity to use one of these fancy keys is this sliver key up here. We go from D to D sharp to E. Now, this one isn't a must-do. I mean, it's just a nice option because it's not really that much different than adding this one. And if you're like me and you're right-handed, sometimes this one works just as easy. But if we can keep our fingers moving the same motion in the same hand, neurologically, that's a better move. So we go D, D sharp, E. That works out very nice. Our next chromatic fingering, thumb F, first space F, the next note would be F sharp. We don't want to do that. It is possible to get it clean, but why would you want to go through all that? I don't know why you would want to. I don't want to. So I go from F, and then I hit these 2 bottom side keys together. And I don't point at them like this. I use the side of my finger like that. So I go from F, F sharp, G. Those are the 3 sets of chromatic fingers. So in the upper register, in the clarion register, because as you probably already know, when we play our chromatic scale from low E through B, we just repeat those fingerings with the register key pressed. So we get to repeat these exact same chromatic fingering sequences. So we go from F to F sharp to G. F, F sharp, G, and back down. And you must, I tell you, use your ring finger for this key. That is crucial. Then we have the same thing. A sharp, B. And we don't really use it in the upper register because we're done with the clarion register after high C. We could use this as a D flat, going from C to D flat. Sometimes I do, but only if I'm going to D flat back down to C. That's a special case, and that's not really what we're talking about today. So those are the special fingerings. But there is a special way you should finger some other notes, and I want to show that to you because it's really important. When we play low E, if we're starting on a low E, we're going to finger low E with our left pinky, but we're also going to have our low F key pressed with our pinky, even though obviously it doesn't make any difference how that E sounds. Doesn't do anything until you lift this finger up. And then you're already ready to play F. And then you put this finger back down, but on the outside for F sharp. And this finger's still down. Then you pick them both up to play G. That way our fingers are moving either by themselves or in the same motion up or down. So we eliminate any possibility of contrary motion. Super important. The chromatic scale, we actually, by the way, never play a chromatic scale. I don't want to say never, but most of the time, unless we're playing a cadenza or something. Don't play a chromatic scale for like 2 octaves. We play part of a chromatic scale in part of a piece. And sometimes it's just 2 or 3 or 1 chromatic note. So we've got to find access points to the scale, just 1 note. So it's not like we have to practice the whole thing. We do have to practice the whole thing, but it's only so we can access certain parts of it later on. So that's the deal. When we go from B, do that same motion with the register key pressed, B, C, C sharp, D. And then when we're on our way down, D, press both of them down for C sharp, let go, press down. So this one stays down for 3 notes. C sharp, or D flat, C, B. D flat, C, B. We go D, D flat, C, B. It's going to work beautifully for you. Those aren't the only secrets I'm going to give you today. Here's some more secrets. We're going to practice the chromatic scale 3 different ways. We're going to practice it in 5-note groups. That way we get to practice going up and down in these very specific areas. I've written it so it starts on low E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, all the way up. So you've got small 5-note groups, little cells to practice this in. My recommendation is to start slow. Number 60 is always a good place to start. And I'm just going to play a few of them so you get the idea. But this gives us an opportunity to practice going up and down through these areas where we're going to do very specific things with our fingers. Because I'll tell you this right now, our fingers don't have brains. Our fingers are, for lack of a better word, a little stupid. And the fingers will just do what you train them to do. They don't know. They'll just do it. So if you train your fingers right and you train your muscles and your muscle memory, it's going to come through for you when you need it. And that's why we practice these scales in this way. Seems like it's going to take forever, but it doesn't. And when you're done, after a series of practice sessions, maybe more than a series, you're going to be powerful. We'll start at the beginning. I'll just play a few of them. Let's do one where we do through the chromatic B. Here's what's important. You practice it on the way up, it looks like that. But then on the way down, you've got to practice going from C to B natural with the chromatic fingering. In all these exercises, I've written an S for a sliver key. And when I write that S, it's for this sliver key that we just talked about. It's not for this one. This one you can use or not use. I leave that up to you, because I honestly don't always use it. But then for these keys, I wrote SK for side key. This is how I mark my own music. There's probably a more official way of doing it, but this one really works for me, so I want to share it with you. So, like I was saying, we have to practice going from C to B with this chromatic fingering, and then B flat. Because that feels different on the way down than it does on the way up. So that's why these 5-note patterns are really, really helpful. I'm going to do one that goes through the chromatic F sharp so you can see it. And then we have the same things in the upper register. if you so wish to use this sliver key. Again, this sliver key goes in the lower register, below the staff, D, D sharp, E. In the upper register, with the register key pressed, A sharp, B. All right. So that's a good way if you're just getting started, or if you want to review this in a way to really help it sink into your muscle memory. These 5-note groups are going to really, really help. But wait, there's more. Before I forget, I suggest doing this up to 120. $120 is a good place because that's going to transition into where we go next, which is picking up 16th notes. We're going to start that at 60. So mathematically, if we start these 16th notes at 60, it's leaving us off exactly at the same speed we just played those 8th notes. Now in this 16th grouping, we played a little over 2 octaves. So this gives us a little bit more space for our mind and our fingers to remember these new fingers on the way up and the way down. So they're not happening right on top of each other in the same way that in these 5 notes they did. This is helpful and good. And then a half step up. Another half step up. You get the idea. Now, I've also written some alternate articulations. And this isn't to force you to do anything. I just don't want it to be that someone is always playing this slurred, always entirely articulated. Use a variety of articulations in this one. I've written out the examples on the top. Why is it that we need to do this for every half step? I'm going to tell you why, because it's an important why. When we have the first note of each of these 4-note groups on the beat, that gives a natural emphasis and a natural accent that helps our fingers organize this. And if we move that so every note gets a chance to be number 1, it really helps our fingers make this so that we can grasp a certain part of it when we need it. When we're playing Weber, when we're playing our band music, when we're playing Brahms and orchestra, all these things, when we need to find chromatic passages, this helps us pick that out at the time, at the place that we need it. Right? So let's put this, I suggest this one goes up to 120. So we go through them all like that, carefully, really bumping up the tempo only when we're ready. And when are you ready? I would say if you can play 8 out of 10 in practice, and you can play it with confidence, play it right, play it clean, bump it up a little bit, because we want to stay in a practice zone that's challenging and not boring. But keep in mind, when we're practicing for a performance, we use a different strategy, not that strategy. And I'm going to add one more thing. It's quick. I haven't made my metronome video yet. I've got strong feelings about metronomes. When we're practicing, I use a dial metronome. I don't use a digital metronome because each click is 5% increase. And I find that when I'm practicing, 5% of an increase in tempo is about where I always want it to be. So it feels good. Because if I click 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, I'm not moving up 5% each time. I'm moving up a different percent each time. I feel uncomfortable with that. I've got some pedantic ideas about metronomes. Okay, so the next thing we're doing is we're going to go back to 60. And I've expanded the range to 2 octaves in triplets. So this gives us a wider spread in terms of intervals from bottom to top, but it also changes the emphasis and subdivision, right? So now instead of 4 notes per beat or 2 notes per beat, we've got 3 notes per beat. That changes the flow, that changes the accent, that changes the feeling in our fingers just a little bit. So that it really helps our fingers really learn this in a way that they cannot forget. Because they don't forget, they just do what they've been trained to do. Let's see how it feels. I'm going to start in random places just so you can hear how this exercise goes. I'll put them up on the screen as I do them. And again, this PDF is yours. Go to my website and get it for free. You get the idea. This is going to really help us get this all really into our fingers in a way that is pretty profound. And also use all the different articulations that I've written for this one too. Once you learn a scale, any scale, I made a video about this, don't just practice the scale anymore. If your fingers know it and you're just reviewing, you're trying to make it clean, it can be hard to concentrate so specifically on that. So add another thing. Some articulation, some dynamics. Add dynamics through all of these exercises. I didn't write any because I didn't want someone to get locked into a certain way of doing it dynamically or with articulation. Do them all different ways once you get the fingerings down. And you know what? I would say that for Behrman. I would say that for Closet. I would say that for Longinus. Any of those exercises, add some dynamics. Add some articulation. Do it on purpose, not haphazardly. Make a choice and make the patterns fit. That's going to be a much more useful way for you to practice scales. So the last thing I have for you is an arrangement of sorts of Flight of the Bumblebee. It's 5 pages long. One starts on high E flat, one on high E, F, F sharp, and G. And what this does is it takes you from one page to the next and leads you seamlessly there through the main theme of Flight of the Bumblebee. It doesn't have any rests, which is a bit of a problem, so you're going to have to just stop, take a breath, pick up where you left off. And now in this, you get all sorts of opportunities to do the little twists and turns that exist in Flight of the Bumblebee, as well as utilize all these new fingerings, make choices when to use them, and at certain times when not to use them. I haven't marked any of them in, because if you're doing this, you should be ready for that at this point. So once you get all the preliminary work done with the other exercises, you'll be ready for this. The recording I made of it is not super fast. Go ahead and try and play it faster over the course of time, and have a good time. So this is a nice way to celebrate your work on the chromatic scale, and do it in a way that's comprehensive and will allow you chromatic expertise whenever you need it, wherever you need it. And so great, have a good time with it. It's all of this material. Download at my website, woodwindninja.com, and it is linked down in the description. So have a good time. Let me know how it goes. We'll see you next time. Hey, and if you're still here, like and subscribe if you haven't. Okay? Thanks.